Welcome to another episode of B2B Startup Growth. I'm Sean McHouse, and in this podcast, I aim to share with you wisdom from some of the smartest B2B startup leaders and professionals that I know. We talk about all aspects of marketing, sales, growth hacking, life hacking, and everything in between. Hi, Illy. So happy to have you here with me today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling today?
Pretty good. Kids are back to school, so pretty good. Most of them.
Yeah, very new now. We're recording this episode on the 18th of May in Israel.
Correct.
So This is right after we're starting to go to sort of 70% normal, could we say?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the new normal or the next normal, but it's some sort of a normal.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't we start by you telling us a few words about yourself. What do you do? And a little bit about Percepto for the people who might not know it, just to give us a context of our conversation later.
All right. So I'm Illy Gruber. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Percepto, Autonomous Drones. I joined the company about a year and a half ago. Percepto is today is the market leader in a very cool market of autonomous drones for industrial sites. It's a solution known also as a drone in a box. So it's a drone with a unique box that is deployed on site of heavy industrial sites, places such as power plants, mines, solar farms, refineries, and so on and so forth. Facilities with a lot of heavy infrastructure and critical assets. And the drone is fully automated, so a computer is basically managing it. There is no need for a human operator to control it. And the value for this organization is the availability of consistent aerial data, which coupled with AI provides what we call aerial perception, hence Percepto. And this aerial perception is basically providing critical insights in the form of detecting security threats or safety risks, and more importantly, supporting the boosting efficiencies of maintenance and inspection processes of these sites that at the end of the day lead to reduced risk of shutdown.
Cool. So, I find lately useful for when people listen to information about B2B marketing, it's useful to map the company in terms of what is your average deal size, like a range of, is it in the tens of thousands of dollars? Is it in the hundreds of thousands of dollars? What's the average deal size and average deal length of time that it takes to close a deal? Just so we have an idea.
Cool question. So first of all, it's important to understand the target market. So we sell to the largest Fortune 500 organizations, whether it's the largest oil and gas companies, energy companies, mining, and so on. The deal involves, we have different selling model, but at the end of the day, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. It depends on the number of systems and so on. And it's also depending on the number of sites, the number of actual facilities, because each of these huge organizations, they have typically dozens, if not hundreds of facilities. So we're talking about, very large deals that fairly take quite some time to process end to end. It can take, in the best case scenario, few weeks, but more likely as a few months. But at the same time, it's an innovative technology. So it's different than other commodity technology that these organizations are, they have their well-known in advance procurement schedule for. So those organizations who are jumping on this innovative technology, the cycle time can be, in many cases, shorter than other technology solutions that they get in their organization. And also, nowadays, and I guess we're going to get to that, but nowadays it's even being further expedited.
Cool. So tell us, you skipped the part where you tell us what you do in the organization.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned that I run the marketing. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Percepto. It's a young startup. It's founded late 2014. The company is about 70 people or so. We have a lean and mean marketing team of a few people, but we're working with a lot of subcontractors and partners and agencies that support us. And so we managed to do quite a lot of work. And I joined the company again a year and a half ago or so. There was very little done on the marketing front back end, so I had to pretty much build everything almost from scratch. So, starting with, putting together a brand, a strong brand, creating brand awareness and everything, that you can think of, from positioning to messaging to building a new website, facelifting of the brand look and feel, blog, social media channels, everything happened over the last 18 months or so.
So before we dive into what you did and what you're doing now, which tell us, how did you get to be the VP Marketing of Percepto? Tell us a little bit about what brought you there.
Okay, so I think I have quite an unusual career path when it comes to marketeers. So I've only been doing pure marketing over the last 10 years or so, but I've been in the high-tech industries, B2B industry for a little more than 20 years, just look very young. And so I started right after I was done with my military service as a flight simulator instructor. I joined a company that was doing simulators for combat airplanes, again, 20-something years ago. I started as a QA engineer, quality assurance engineer, and over the years in that company and in others as well, I've done jobs related to QA, professional services, training, integration, and more of the operational aspects of the business. And then at some point I decided that I want to pursue an MBA program. I did an MBA, and once I got that, I crossed the lines to more of the marketing front, but I started as a product manager. And I was a product manager for many years. I relocated to the US, which gave me a lot of direct touch with customers. So I was facing a lot of different type of customers over these years. And at some point I made the transition from product management to product marketing. And then at some point I was offered the job to lead the entire marketing team. So that's what brought me to marketing. Again, about 10 years ago, or slightly more than that. And ever since, I worked in a huge corporate. I worked for Nice Systems, which is a publicly traded company, large teams, a lot of budgets. At some point, my division was spun off and established as a new company called Cognify. So I was, for the first time, a member of a company management, not just a division management. And then a few years after that, I decided to take some time off, and one thing led to another. I decided that I want to go back to startups. I used to work for startups before, and I found myself being introduced to Percepto. I was very excited by what they do. It's one of the coolest industries out there, autonomous vehicles, autonomous drones. And so that's what brought me there.
What's your favorite thing about working in startups that's different from working in a corporate? I'm sure there's lots, but
yeah, just one. Oh, yeah, I have plenty. There are a lot of advantages of working for large corporates as well, but I guess from a decision to execution time, it's you can do pretty much. You decide something the day after, even the very same day, you can execute that. While you can't really do that typically, even when you own your budget in a corporate, it will require a lot of buy-in of different stakeholders and getting everybody understanding and commitment and approval, and only then you can go move on with the execution phase, which is not the case in startups. So,
yeah, I identify with that. I love that too. Okay, so I think let's jump into what you're doing in Percepto. So before we, I'll ask you what you're doing now. Can you give us a little bit of like a high-level overview of what was your marketing activities pre-COVID-19? What was your marketing mix like? What were the main activities that you were engaged with and that you relied on for building your customer acquisition and brand and everything?
Okay, so 2019, remember there was such a year, 2019, we focused mainly on building the brand, okay? Creating the brand, creating the awareness to the brand, doing the right positioning and messaging, and getting the word out there to the world that here we are. And it's not just that we are there, we're the de facto market leader when it comes to, how advanced the technology is and the market share. So, we had good business going on, but in terms of marketing, we were lacking behind the competition. And so I was focused mainly during 2019 on building the brand, which worked pretty well.
Let me understand that. So you had good business. What made you realize that you needed to strengthen the brand? What was driving that?
Okay, so first of all, I was brought on to the team, to the company to build the brand. So the founders realized that this is a good time. They were more in I would call it a guerrilla mode. So they had an amazing product. and they acquired customers one after, one by one. But it wasn't, a widespread of the technology and trying to get in a lot of customers. It was about proving the concept and getting the first customers to use and then improve the technology and the solution as we go. And then when they felt that the maturity is there, it was clear that this is the time to, gain leadership.
Okay.
And to gain leadership, you have to invest in marketing. There is no other way.
So I'll point out that it's a very common strategy and a wise strategy for a startup to first focus on gaining the first innovator clients in a very direct sales mode of operation. But then in order to gain scale, for sure, you need to establish a strong brand. And it's lucky that your founders realized this and brought you in. So, okay, so what was the next?
By the way, during my journey of looking for my next place, it was made, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I spoke with, so many different CEOs and founders, small startups, larger companies, and it was made very clear to me that, I can do the most and enjoy the most if and when I join a company, that the managers, the CEO, the founders have appreciation to marketing, okay? That was, a good decision on my end. And
how do you test that when you're interviewing for a new job as CMO? How do you test that your CEO appreciates marketing as he should?
You can see by the questions that they ask. You can see whether they have passion for that, and also you can see whether they understand marketing or not. And that's a little less important for me as long as they're engaged and they want to engage better in the marketing. So yeah. Let's just start a discussion.
I totally agree that is one of the factors for success of CMOs, and it's nice that you're pointing it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2019 was pretty much all about building the brand. Obviously, that generated some leads already, because when you have a good brand work going on, then leads are coming in. But we weren't too methodological on lead gen programs. Coming into 2020, when we, back in December 2019, when we were figuring out what the goals for the marketing for this year, it was clear that we need to continue and focus on the brand awareness. It's not something that you do once and then you move on and do different things. So continue the good work we did of building the brand while starting to establishing also lead gen programs, right? So I had 5 events planned for Q2. Physical events. I had 5 physical events. There are a lot of events in this drone industry and also in these heavy industries verticals. And so I was in the process of recruiting an event manager, a Markham, as some call it. And also we started devising the digital lead gen programs. And that was all true until, late February. I remember a discussion at the very beginning of March. We contemplated whether we should start making some relation to COVID-19. Nobody called it COVID-19 at the beginning of March. It was still the coronavirus. And we were like, we had a call with our PR agent and we were like, let's wait a little longer to see whether we want to change things a little bit, to relate to the coronavirus. And 5 days later, we were all about coronavirus. We were all about COVID-19. We went double down on that. We parked the original plans and we shuffled everything and we started from scratch very quickly to build a new plan. I actually created what we called an attack plan, the COVID-19 attack plan. So I put a plan within a day and we started executing on that. And obviously, that plan changed over the weeks, but it was all about COVID-19 because we realized we have an amazing opportunity given this unfortunate crisis.
So please explain it, because I'm not sure the audience would immediately understand the shift and the opportunity that was created for you as a result of the COVID-19 situation.
Yeah, so there are 2 types of, the different businesses were impacted differently given, the situation and the crisis. There are the companies such as travel and shared workspaces, that the impact, the hit on their business was, amazing, how bad, devastating, exactly. And then there are the other companies, the other end, such as the video conference and everybody, Zoom and Zoom and Zoom, but also e-learning and video creation and so many other things that are thriving given the situation because there is huge demand. And then there are everybody in between. And we are somewhere between the in-between and, the better end of the scale because we are a provider of autonomous solutions that enable working remotely, enable achieving work on a site without having necessarily all the manpower required because they can be operated through a cloud management system. And more importantly, not just we have the technology stack that enables that, but the need of the customers has changed. So if our messaging before COVID-19 was around how to generate an ROI using autonomous drones, then given COVID-19, the message has completely changed to how to maintain business continuity. So you don't have the people going on site, whether it's for security patrols or for inspection of your critical infrastructure, but at the same time, you have to guarantee business continuity, especially when people are relying on having power and water and internet going to their homes to enable the remote operation. So we've shifted the messaging. We focused on, it was part of the messaging already, but we focused on on the specific business continuity and remote operations aspects of the messaging. And we saw that the demand is out there. We just need to reach out and make sure that people are aware that this technology is available because these organizations are now in the process of looking for such solutions for right now, but also for, God forbid, if we have a wave 2 or any other future crisis, not related necessarily to COVID, but that preventing people from getting on site. So the workplace is changing for everybody, but these businesses, they need to guarantee business continuity, not just for their business, but for the entire ecosystem around there. So our plans had to change because,
You're addressing the same target audience as you did a day before COVID-19, but all of a sudden you needed to, you changed your value proposition, right? It was a different...
We tweaked the messaging. We haven't changed the value proposition. The value proposition was always there to begin with, and it's the very same target market. It's just about how to serve them, the messaging, how to get them to know about us. It was mainly about tweaking the messaging. Unlike other companies, I'm a member of a forum called GCMO, Global CMO. It's an Israeli forum that by now we have about 100 members or so. And it's so interesting to see, the different approaches and the different needs of the different companies given the situation. And everybody had to be very creative with what they do. So some companies had to create new products and launch new products within a matter of weeks. Others were just, giving away the current offering and gave some alternative offering until things get back to normal. And some companies such as Percepto, they need to go again, double down on the existing customers with the existing product. Simply, we can achieve more, and that's what we did. So I can elaborate on what exactly that we were doing.
Did your competitors also react in a similar way, or did it introduce to you an opportunity to really differentiate?
So I must say that we were quicker than the competition. We have to realize that it's a fairly young market. It's a young technology. It's a commercial product over the last 2 years or so. So there is a limited number of competition out there, but it's fierce competition, what we do have available. We were the very first one to react properly, and I'm proud to say that most of the competition was following us. We were the first one to have a COVID-19 appearance on our website. We built a hub with central information and blogs, and we enabled booking a live demo, which is something that we didn't enable before. We typically went on customer sites to run demos of the drones, and now we're doing that remotely. We launched a blog series. We have a webinar series.
How do you run a demo remotely when you need to show a physical element? With cameras?
So we have a testing site in the kibbutz close to Jerusalem, and we just put surveillance cameras. We connected them to Zoom. We get people getting on the Zoom, and we show them the actual drone and its base station, and we show them the software, and they can actually operate the drone from wherever they are because it allows for over the cloud control. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me how. I mean, it's critical from a perspective of a marketer. I know that there is definitely a huge advantage to those who react quicker to responding with new messaging and responding to a new thing that happens in the market. How did you manage to respond so quickly?
So it's really about being focused and having the right team and the right CEO or the right managers. And so it was a teamwork for sure. A lot of the ideas came from management, from the founders, from other members of the overall management. And we just, we went very quickly about it. So we put the attack plan together. We assigned responsibilities and we were all in. And it's something that you cannot do without having the right team. And when I'm talking about the team, it's not all organically done. So again, I'm working with amazing agencies that are supporting us on the digital front, on the PR side. And, we were very much aligned about what is it that we need to do. And we just started doing it. So it's being agile and nimble at the same time.
So I'm going to I won't let you off the hook so easily because we want to be practical and helpful for the audience. So what does it mean to have the right team? Could you maybe specify what kind of people you need to hire so that they can be very agile and responsive in such situations? Do you have any tips when you hire?
I think, when I compare my team right now, having been working at a startup compared to, a large corporate, I think to begin with, people that are joining startups are more agile and nimble by nature. Most of them at least. And so it's about their passion and their creativity and their ability to be agile together with having the right management that leads the way, right? So, I typically work with this kind of people also when I've worked in a larger corporate. So for me, that's what it takes to be a good marketeer. It's not just in times of crisis.
Cool. So the other side of this is also very interesting. From what I know about your target audience, we're talking about industrial companies that, at least until February 2020, I used to perceive them as quite traditional, a conservative, not fast moving, not fast to react, just by nature of these industries. They were typically, at least my perception of these industries is that they're slower to react to the changes. So can you tell me, what do you perceive this late market situation as something that changed something in the way they do business? Has it influenced the way they react and adapt new technology? Do you see a difference in these traditional industries that you can put your finger on?
So it's a little hard to say, we've only been 8 to 10 weeks into it. So it's a little hard to make a statement saying, yes, it's different now. But I have to share with you that, even before the situation, all these large corporates, industrial companies, they have an innovation department. They're looking into automation and autonomous solutions, and robots are part of their charter for quite some time, of most of them, okay? For some, it takes longer to select the right solution. For some, it takes a bit less than that, but they are all into it, okay? Obviously, we feel that things are being accelerated now. So the demand is being accelerated, and the pace of, we've tripled the number of leads over the last 10 weeks per week, okay?
Wow.
It's both a matter of how we've adjusted our plan, but it reflects much on the market as well. It's interesting. Last week we had a webinar. I expected that we're going to have about 300 people who are signing up. We had double than that. And we had about 50% actually showing up, attending the actual live event. And we asked a very interesting question throughout the event. We had some polls, and one of the question was, I'm going to read it just to make sure that I'm reading it correctly. So the question was, how do you estimate the current situation, that of COVID-19, will impact the adoption of robots for autonomous solutions in your organization? The results are amazing, okay? Only 15% said that there's going to be no impact whatsoever. 64% of the audience, and again, we're talking about those Fortune 500 companies, right? 64% indicated they're now looking into, such solutions of automations and robots, while 21% indicated they already have implemented such solutions. So these are mind-blowing numbers for me. Now, I wish I had ran the same report, the same poll, 6 months earlier,
Wow.
because I don't know, but I doubt very much whether that was 64. I bet it wasn't more than 40% of those organizations that were looking into it. And these organizations are not only now looking into it, but I can tell you that we had made some new sales throughout the last 10 weeks that would never have happened, without this, again, unfortunate situation. So companies that are looking to tighten their security operation, especially as they are lacking the people that are coming on site, have quickly decided to adopt this solution of autonomous drones for the sake of security, and later on with the vision of using that for additional things such as inspection and maintenance.
So just another indication that this COVID-19 has fast forwarded so many industries into
Sure.
Autonomous age, into digital age, into AI age.
Digital, I don't know if you saw, there was such a cool image going around virally on social media about COVID-19. And there was a question, I don't know who to attribute this for, but who leads digital transformation in your organization? Is it A, your CEO, B, your CTO, or C, COVID-19? Where the COVID-19 was marked. And it's such a great image that is telling the story in such a simple words and a simple way, because this kind of crises, they for sure accelerate innovation and adoption of new technologies that otherwise it would have taken much longer. It's still a market of early adopters, this market of autonomous drones. We're on the verge of moving to from early adopters to early majority. And for sure, this crisis is giving a big backwind to this move.
So I just thought of an issue that I think is very often a challenge from the perspective of a digital marketer that I'd like to ask you about. Especially in more traditional industries like the ones that you're selling into. From perspective of digital marketing, it's often easier to capture the attention digitally of the innovation people, the people who are in the innovation department. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned them. That's why it reminded me of this specific challenge. I work with multiple companies who need to sell into these organizations. And digitally, to get in front of the innovation teams is not that difficult because they are out there looking for innovation, and they're looking
their job.
It's their job to attend these seminars and webinars and to events and to look out for new technology. Mm-hmm. And usually it's more of a challenge to get in front of the other decision makers. By the way, the innovators are usually the ones pulling you in, but they're not the decision makers to close the deal.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So pulling in the decision makers is often a lot more challenging digitally, because those guys are, you need to get in front of them, go out there and meet them. That's the most common practice. How has that changed lately in light of everybody working from home and the COVID situation? Has it changed from your perspective?
Yeah, so first of all, I completely agree that the face-to-face interaction is invaluable. And for that, we had 5 events planned for Q2, physical events. Nonetheless, I must say that also on the digital front, it's not that complicated to get to those decision makers. And by the way, we are not chasing only or mainly the innovation departments, but rather the actual users that will gain value out of what we have to offer. So these are site managers, security managers, operation managers, inspection managers, and so on and so forth. And so, you outreach like you outreach to any other audience. You find them on LinkedIn, you find them on relevant, within the ecosystem in relevant forums and media and so on. And it's about crafting the right messages that will click with them, right? So it's about talking about their pains and their gain if they are to adopt new technologies. And an interesting thing to realize is that the usage of drones in these industries became kind of a best practice over the last 5 to 7 years. So everybody's either already using drones or in the process of getting on what they call a drone program. It's the automated drones, the fully autonomous drones that makes a difference. And it's fairly easy now that we have 2 years of experience in this market. It became fairly easy for us to prove this value. So it's, you talk the ROI, you get their attention. And so this is how we do it.
But how easy is it to get in front of them in the first place? I mean, can you share maybe some practices that you use in order to attract their attention? The professionals who are the users, who are not typically so much regularly, daily on LinkedIn, browsing.
So again, it's about, for instance, we have now 5 webinars coming up. One already took place, one last week, and we have a webinar coming up each and every week for the next 4 or 5 weeks. We're not going on our own with this webinar. So we have teamed up we've partnered with relevant stakeholders within the ecosystem,
okay.
Whether it's a consulting firm for one webinar, or one of the leading publications for another webinar, and the third one, we're doing a panel with the other 4 companies. So you really need to be smart about how you go about it, but at the end of the day, we are running webinars, right?
Right.
Doing the outreach to the relevant stakeholders is through various routes and various vehicles, again, such as publications and other players.
Okay.
And, ideally, we would like to have a customer joining us for a webinar, but because it's these large organizations, their corporate communication typically take a lot of time to approve, such initiatives. But yeah, that's how we do it.
Okay. So I'd like to, from what I've heard about you, Illy, I don't know if you know this. I mean, and, I have heard a lot about how you work from people.
For some people we both know.
People who know you.
Yeah.
You're well known for moving very, very fast and reacting very quickly to opportunities. And from a little that I know about your history, I guess it's not the first time you needed to cope with this challenge here in Percepto. So maybe I thought you could tell us a little bit about your experience in coping with needing to be very, very agile and move very fast to react to an opportunity on the market, and what what prepared you for this?
Yeah. So, okay, so I have this story about I was working for an I system. My tenure there lasted for about 10 years, almost a decade. I was at some point appointed to be the head of marketing for one of the divisions. It's a large division that was eventually sold for $100 million, or so it was saying in the financial media, to Battery Ventures, to a VC. And so we had to spin off a division of 250 people, worth of, again, $100 million. We had to spin off and establish that as a standalone company. Now, as you can imagine, in a company, a publicly traded company such as NICE, it was the best kept secret. There are very few people that were involved, so I couldn't involve my team in this process until it was announced. And from there on, I had 5 weeks from announcement to closing to put together everything that has to do with marketing for a new company, from a brand to establishing corporate communications that so far I was relying on, the larger corporate for corporate communications, to anything in between. So within these 5 weeks, we had to come up with a name for the company, a look and feel of the brand, a website, social media channels, and 2 days after the closing of the deal, so it's about 5.5 weeks after it was announced, we were already participating in a trade show, fully branded with the new brand. And so
we're talking about Cognify, first of all.
So we're talking about Cognify. This is when we established Cognify as a standalone company. Again, by then it was 250 or so employees, selling once again to very large organizations. It was about video surveillance solutions and command and control, very sophisticated.
Wait a minute, let me take that in. So first of all, if you asked me, you would have asked me before, I might have said that this is an impossible mission in 5 weeks to put together from scratch a whole new brand and website and company and organization and show up in a big trade show as a whole new company.
It seemed back then like a bit of a mission impossible, but then again, I knew my team and I had the most amazing team. And I knew the team, and I knew it's going to happen. And I even managed to take a 10 days vacation, during which I was fully online, but managing everything from the Netherlands, because I was relying on what was probably the best team on earth. So it was a team of top-notch professionals, super passionate about doing this and doing this right. And when you have the right team and with the right management focus, it's doable. And we proved that, mission was accomplished successfully. It was a lot about, unlike what we used to be, very perfectionist about everything we do. It was about the 80-20. So what is it that we must do right now and we should focus on, and what can we compromise with? It took a lot of compromise in various places, but nonetheless, 5 weeks into it, there was a new company out there. And
so it's interesting for me to hear from you. What are the things when you're building a new brand for a B2B company that you can't compromise with? What are the things you decided these are the few things I won't compromise?
Okay, first of all, you have to create the identity, what you're all about, who you are, what are your values, right? So we had to decide what is it that we are keeping from the mothership, the big company, but what elements of new identity we want to adopt and put in the new dress and be perceived differently. So it's about, first of all, deciding on the identity, and the name should reflect what the identity is, and the look and feel should reflect that, and everything you do. And then it's about, what is the positioning and messaging that you want to have there. And it's a very quick decision because, again, it's not that you're establish a new business from scratch. It's about establishing a new company or a new brand. And then it's deciding that whatever we get out there is going to be of a high quality, okay? So we're not going to do things like kind of in between. And yes, it's okay to apologize, saying, listen, I'm only 5 weeks into it. But nonetheless, make sure that when you're approaching your customers and also your internal sales team, you provide them with high quality, whether it's content or templates or whatever. And it's not perfect, but it's of a high quality, okay? So be minded about that, and you're going to be successful if you have the right team to pull this together.
Okay, again, it's always back to having the right team. Right?
For me, it's no matter if we're talking about marketing or R&D or whatever. And I managed product management teams. I managed training departments, professional services. It's always about the team with the right leadership. I mean, make sure that people understand what they have to do, and then they'll do it just fine if it's the right.
Because you mentioned it a few times, could I ask you to identify what are the few components or the few characteristics that you can't compromise in your team when you're building a team, a dream team as a CMO? What are the parts of it that you can't compromise?
From
the perspective of the team members.
Characteristics, okay. So people have to be go-getters, creative, team players. Very important to be team players. I mean, you can't work all on your own and not doing it together with your teammates. Appreciate high quality. So, not compromising let's just do it, okay? I have appreciation for high quality and determined to be successful. So, yeah. It's kind of from the top of my head.
Good. And from what I know about your team, it's like that.
Right. Yeah. I'm very lucky. By the way, you don't always get to choose who's on your team because you inherit teams. And I must say that I was, and still I'm very lucky about who I have in my team.
Yeah, luck is also a good thing to have, right?
Without a doubt.
Okay. So I think, Illy, to close this conversation, I'd love to ask you something like more general, because you're such an established marketer and have been for a long time. Could I ask you to reflect back on yourself when you were starting the marketing part of your journey? And could you think of something that you wish you had known then, that you know now and you didn't know then, and that you wish somebody had told you in a podcast when you were starting out?
So I'm going to disappoint you because I don't have anything of that sort. I never had a kind of a aha moment or an epiphany saying, oh, I wish I knew that earlier, because all throughout my years in marketing, I keep on learning and studying from other people, from my team or others. And it's an ongoing learning, okay? And so I don't have one thing that makes a huge difference. There's on the personal, and I would say, grow a thicker skin when you decide to become an executive marketeer. Being a marketeer, your work is always exposed to everybody. Your customers, your managers, your teammates, your colleagues across the company, and everybody always have something to say. It could have been brighter or sharper or darker or smarter. And whether it's a press release or a sales tool or a webinar, what have you. So grow a thicker skin, that's important, but that happens over time. And it sounds like I had a bad experience. I didn't. It just, for someone who used to do training and professional services beforehand, my exposure was limited. And being a marketeer, you're all out there fully exposed, if you will. So that's on the personal level. On the professional level, again, I don't have any, I like to think of marketing as broad as the world of medicine, right? You have nurses, you have doctors, you have various specialists, you diagnose, you treat, you provide preventive care, you research. Same goes for marketing. It's such a broad world. There are so many different aspects to it. You always have to align what you do with the business goals. But I think one thing that I would like to give as a sort of a tip for the audience is never neglect the internal marketing, okay? There's so much to do and say about marketing in B2B and B2C in general. Internal marketing is always a crucial part of what you have to do as an executive marketer. Not only because you pump up your colleagues and your employees, because at the end of the day, each and every employee in the company is an ambassador of your brand, okay? Whether it's when they're having a beer in a pub with their friends, or when they do a tier 4 call, or sending an email from the finance team, or a pre-sale engagement, or, and they're ambassador of your brand. So you need to make sure that they're pumped up by the brand. They know what the brand is all about. They know the core messages, the values, because they will carry it out and they will serve as a force multiplier to your marketing team. And so focus on internal marketing, not as much necessarily as you do on external, but don't just park that and say, I will get to that at some point. It should always be intertwined in your ongoing work.
That's very, very useful. Can you say how you do it? What do you do to implement that?
So, in a startup, in a way, it's easier because of the open culture of sharing. In startups, you have a WhatsApp group that everybody on the company is on the same group. But it took me a while to realize that I need to communicate over WhatsApp and not over emails. But regardless of email or WhatsApp, make sure that what you do, you share with the team, whether you have released a new press release or launched a new LinkedIn campaign and you have cool ads, and get them to know about those ads and engage with the ads, and any social posts that you do. And also when you have, some junctions of decisions where you have to make some decision, in some cases you can involve the team, picking the right slogan or whatever. So try to engage them as much as possible and just share with them what you have. It pumps them up, and again, they're your ambassadors.
I love that tip, because I noticed that to some people it might seem obvious, but no, from my experience with companies, you go to the average R&D person in a startup or a tech company or a bigger company, they're not aware of all the marketing activities that were done.
Yeah. So I have still a way to improve on that end myself, but I keep on reminding myself that it's very important to do. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Illy, so much. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you.
Same here.
And I hope we do this again sometime soon.
I'd love to.
And have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too, Sean. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the B2B Startup Growth Podcast, bringing you the latest wisdom on marketing, sales, growth hacking, and life as a startup leader. I'm your host, Shoham Eckhaus, and if there's a particular topic that you'd like me to cover soon, please reach out to me on b2bstartupgrowth.com and let me know.